Hello Daily Drafters and welcome to the perfect introduction video to Shadows over Innistrad Remastered Limited here on the Daily Draft channel. This video will cover a comprehensive list of set-specific mechanics and interactions to prepare you for your first draft of the new set when it releases on MTG Arena on Tuesday, March 21st. This set has tons of delirious mechanics that will make you go mad, so let's investigate. Before we hop into the content for this video, I'd appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to the channel if you aren't already. These set reviews take a lot of time and have to be done on a strict schedule, and I'm doing everything I can to get them to you when I know you need them. Remember, YouTube doesn't allow any content creators to make a single penny off of their YouTube content unless they have a minimum of 1,000 subscribers, and we are rapidly approaching that number. So if you think I deserve to be rewarded for the content I make, a subscription is all that's needed to help the channel head in the right direction. It's absolutely free for you, so there's no reason not to. Now, with every set comes specific mechanics and interactions that are unique to it. When it comes to Shadows over Innistrad Remastered, we're combining the best of Eldritch Moon and the original Shadows over Innistrad blocks to create a fun and fresh new draft environment. But with the combination of two sets comes plenty of returning mechanics that you may have forgotten about. So let's dive into our first mechanic in today's video, and that is Escalate. Escalate is a static ability of modal spells that functions while the spell is on the stack. Escalate, followed by a specific cost, means for each mode you choose beyond the first as you cast this spell, you pay an additional cost. In the case of Borrowed Grace here, you may choose one of either of its modes and pay its original casting cost of 2 and a white, or you can add on an additional 1 and a white to its cost to cast the spell with both of its modes selected. It's essentially just another form of kicker for non-creature spells. The next mechanic that we'll dive into is Delirium. Delirium is an ability word that keys off of having 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. Don't forget that card types include creature, instant, sorcery, land, and so on. In the case of Reaper of Flight Moonsilver, if you have 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, you then have the ability to sacrifice another creature to give the Reaper +2/+1 until end of turn. Our next mechanic is Madness. Madness is a triggered ability that lets you pay an alternative mana cost when you discard a card. The card is then cast for its Madness cost. In the case of Alms of the Vein, if you can find a way to discard this card, you have the ability to also pay 1 black mana to cast it as you do. You could also just go ahead and cast it for its regular cost of 2 and a black as well, but that's clearly not as powerful. Next up we have Emerge. Emerge is a static ability that lets you pay an alternative mana cost to cast a creature. Instead of paying the regular mana cost, you may sacrifice 1, and only 1, creature. Then you pay the Emerge cost reduced by a number of generic mana equal to the sacrificed creature's mana value. In the case of Wretched Gryff here, you have the ability to pay 7 generic mana for a 3/4 flyer that draws a card when it enters the battlefield, or you can sacrifice a creature, any creature. Let's say you chose a creature with a mana value of 4, you then cast the Wretched Gryff for just 1 and a blue. Next up is a simple one, but an important one nonetheless, and that is Investigate. Investigate is a keyword action that lets you create a colorless clue artifact token that you can pay 2 generic mana to sacrifice and draw a card. Lots of creatures in this set have Investigate and care about when you investigate, so let's look at Thraben Inspector, which is simply a 1 mana 1/2 that investigates when it enters the battlefield, and there's really not much more to it. Next we have one of the more complicated mechanics in the set, and that is Transform. In this set, Transform is a triggered ability that allows you to turn double-faced cards over to their backside. Now, for those of you who have most recently played Innistrad Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, I have some bad news for you. Transforming cards in Shadows over Innistrad Remastered work differently than transforming cards from Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. Most notably, some cards in Shadows over Innistrad Remastered simply transform when a certain condition is met, and none of them interact with the day and night mechanic of the most recent blocks. Day and Night cared about whenever the player whose turn it was chose to either cast 0 or 2 spells during their turn, then it would flip between night and day. Transforming cards in Shadows over Innistrad Remastered care about any player, not just the active player. Also, when day and night is flipped back and forth, your transforming cards would simply flip with the changing of time as the turn passed. In Shadows over Innistrad, these flips are triggers that occur during upkeep as opposed to simply state-based actions. I know, it's confusing, but don't worry, these things likely won't come up super often. Our last notable addition to Shadows over Innistrad Remastered is the addition of the Shadows of the Past collection. Similarly to the Strixhaven Mystical Archive and the retro artifacts of the Brothers' War, Shadows over Innistrad Remastered will have a curated collection of cards that will exist in draft booster packs on MTG Arena. It is important to note, however, that the entire list of 81 cards will not be active at the same time on MTG Arena, but any of these 81 cards can be found in Shadows over Innistrad draft boosters in real life at any time. On MTG Arena, these 81 cards will cycle in and out of the format over its 4-week life. If you'd like to see a full list of these 81 cards and which of these cards will be available in MTGA draft boosters at what time, there's a link in the description to that information for you. Now, as of the creation of this video, Wizards still hasn't spoiled every card in this set, and hasn't released a schedule of when that will happen, which I'm sure you know makes creating card and archetype specific content very difficult and unpredictable. So I've chosen to release this video on its own, and we'll work on an archetype guide as soon as we have access to the full spoiler. If you aren't subscribed yet, feel free to click that red subscribe button to be notified of any and all future uploads to the channel, including the archetype guide for Shadows over Innistrad Remastered. Looks like that'll do it for this video, and I'll see you next time here at Daily Draft.